Hi, my name is Emily Phillips, and welcome to this episode of Step to Stories, where we dig into true crime, inspirational stories, stories of addiction, and so much more. And the purpose of the show is so that you can get your steps in while you are truly engrossed in these stories. I realized I've been doing a lot of other stories besides true crime lately, and I wanted to get back to the purpose of this show, which was mainly true crime. I'm very passionate about true crime only because I think it helps bring awareness to the victims' families and especially unsolved cases. You never know if we might be talking about a story that somebody's watching and we get a tip and can help solve the case. And that is just exactly what we're going to be talking about today. I have done a deep dive in this particular case in the last 48 hours. And when I tell you it is tragic and sad and has all the horrific feelings that go with it, I am not exaggerating. If you have children, you will feel so much empathy for these families and their friends and everything that happened in the small town of Delphi, Indiana. So let's start out by giving you some facts. Some of you may be aware of this case. It's been all over the news because new evidence has just come out that there may have been some cult and satanic type of ties with this case, and we will dig into that. I don't know that we will get into everything into this one episode. We may have to break it up in a few different episodes. But let's kind of just start by giving you the facts. You know that I don't ever read from a script, which is good and bad. And sometimes if I get my facts incorrectly, feel free to correct me in the comments below. So let's just get started. So the victims in this case were Abigail, and she goes by Abby. She went by Abby Williams. She was 13 years old. And then we had Liberty, who went by Libby German. She was 14 years old. February 13th of 2017, Abby and Libby went for a hike, and they went and hike at the Delphi Historic Trails. So if you're not familiar with this place, this was like an area in a small town that kids like to meet up at. There were parents like to get their family pictures taken there, or prom pictures were taken there, cheerleading pictures, things of that nature. It was very historic, very, very, very old. Used to be a train track. It was kind of a deserted area, if you will. I know that back in the day, I had a meetup place with my friends. We called it the Creek. We had a place called the Tree. I know a lot of kids have just places where they like to meet up, and this happened to be a place that kids like to go. So it wasn't uncommon or strange that you would drop your kids off to play there. This was a very small town, only 2,500 people. So the girls were to be dropped off there by Kelsey. This was Libby's sister, and they were dropped off and they were supposed to be picked up in the afternoon. But when the girls didn't return, the families got really nervous and reporting them missing. And we're kind of go through all of that. So I want you to just to think about this for a second before we kind of really get into the story. But here we have a 13 and 14-year-old girl, love to listen to music, do their little Snapchat, play their games. They were involved in sports. I believe one of them was involved in softball. And here they were on an afternoon wanting to go hang out, after school or whatnot. They wanted to go hang out and have some fun before doing their evening activities. And also think about the sister, Kelsey, that dropped them off. There's been a lot of new pieces of evidence and information that have surfaced about this story. And like I said, we will get into that, but let's just kind of go through beginning to end if we can. So Abby was 14 years old and Libby was 13. And Abby apparently was an animal lover. She loved everything about outdoors. She loved everything about animals. Look at this picture of Abby. She was so cute. Sweet girl. Everybody loved her. She loved her grandparents. And also Libby. Libby was described as such the sweetest, kindest little girl. Look at Libby. She's so sweet. And if you really want to do some research, you can go look at Kelsey, her sister. And her sister has just really tried so hard to keep her legacy alive and done so much work on the search process. And just her sister's just been amazing through this whole process. But they were both go happy, lucky little girls, and they were best friends. They went to middle school together, and they were really close with their grandparents. And they had all the same common interests. They were excited about the upcoming softball season. One of them liked to play the saxophone, and they also loved photography and painting and just all the hobbies that anyone could really possibly think of. And they loved each other so much. They were best friends, and the two of them spent so much time together, and they were really just the best of friends. Now, Delphi, Indiana, let's talk a little bit about the location. So, Delphi is a very small town in Indiana. It's less than 3 square miles in size and has less than 3,000 residents. And according to census that was done back in 2019, so it's a very, very tight knit community. And that's where they loved. That's where they grew up, and everybody was friendly. Everybody knew everybody. I live in a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And so, it was just kind of that small town feel. So it was just that small town feel. So the night before the tragedy, I just want you to imagine this. Here's two little girls, and you can see their picture on the screen. They had decided to spend the night at Libby's grandparents because the next day was going to be a school holiday. It was an unused snow day. So they stayed up and ate pizza and watched movies. I'm just thinking about my kids doing that, the night before a school holiday and being so excited. And they stayed up and watched movies, and they ate pizza and had plans to have fun the next day. And everything was wonderful. And little did they know that that would be their last night alive. I mean, literally their last night. So let's go ahead and talk about that following day. So the girls really, really wanted to go to the meetup, and they asked Kelsey, Libby's sister, if she would take them. And originally she said no because she had plans with her boyfriend, but then she felt really guilty because she hadn't been spending a lot of time with her sister lately. So she said, here's the deal. I will take you as long as you can get a ride home. So Libby called her father, his name is Derek, and said, would you pick us up in a few hours after Kelsey drops us off at the trails? And he was taking pictures of their grandma at the time. I guess he was some sort of photographer or something, and was taking pictures and said he would come and pick them up as soon as he was done taking the pictures. So Kelsey took the girls to the place and dropped them off at approximately 1:38 p.m. So the timelines are pretty important. 1:38 p.m. If you can see a picture here of the trails, is where they were dropped off. And then Kelsey makes sure that they get to the entrance, get to the gate, and said, bye, I love you, have a good time. And as she was driving away, her boyfriend calls her at 1:40 p.m. and she's looking in the rear view mirror, and that was the last image she didn't know at the time that she would ever see. As she was driving off, it was getting smaller and smaller of the girls running joyfully into the woods. So she drives away. At 2:05 p.m. is when Libby posted a photo on her Snapchat story of the bridge, as you see here, the bridge. And then she posts another photo at 2:07 p.m., just 2 minutes later, of Abby walking on the bridge. And at some point, Libby began taking a video on her cell phone through her camera, and you will see Abby walking on the bridge. But you will also see something else, and this is such an important video that, thank God, she had thought to do, because this is something that later will be used and heavily looked at to this day to find out what happened to these sweet young girls. And you will actually see a man, we want to show a picture here. It's a man walking. So can you see this man walking with his blue jeans on and a jacket? And he was walking along the bridge, but the angle of the video almost makes it look like that Libby took this video of the man, but behind her, but then you hear a guy say on the video, guys, down the hill. So let's play a clip of that. You can hear it. Let's play it a few times so you can hear this clip.
Guys, down the hill. Guys, down the hill. Guys.
It seems as she was purposely videoing him. It was like she was doing it for her own safety. So like the video would be on film on social media so that people would know where she was. And unfortunately, this is the last time the girls would ever be seen alive. And at 3:11 p.m., about an hour and a half since they were dropped off at the trail, Libby's dad, Derek, called Libby's phone to let her know that he was getting close and he was going to be there. Of course, there was no answer. So he continues to wait. He calls at 3:14. He pulls up. There's no answer. He's not probably thinking anything at this point, probably just thinking the girls are out doing something. But it wasn't like Libby not to answer her phone. So he probably starts getting concerned at this point, because they were not at the meetup spot that they had discussed where they would be. And so he starts getting a little bit concerned. And that's when things really start to take a turn. Because as you know, you cannot find a teenager today without their phone. They're always on their phone. So for them to not have their phone to respond to a text message, to respond to a call, to respond to anything is very abnormal. So he gets out of the car and he starts looking for the girls, and he's calling out their name. He's looking all through the woods. You can see pictures here of the woods out there. And think about this. If you're a mother or father and you're looking for these two young girls in this kind of deserted area, I mean, that would be scary. And obviously, he was starting to get really, really nervous. So, as Derek is walking through the woods, he does see a man walking in a flannel, and that name has not been released yet, to my understanding, and kind of a flannel shirt. And he said he had not seen the young girls, but he did see a couple. And it was kind of the intersection of the trail where the 505 and 501 meet up. And this man in this flannel shirt, whose name was never released, said that he saw a couple, but he did not see the girls. So at this point, Derek is getting really, really nervous. So he calls his mother, Becky, which was the grandmother, and Becky was with a woman named Tara, which was the aunt that Libby was really close to. And they start getting really concerned, and they start trying to call and text Libby with no response. They then get a hold of Mike, the grandpa, and Mike gets off work and comes and starts searching. They get a hold of Kelsey, and obviously she was with her boyfriend. She cancels plans with her boyfriend. She calls into work, says she can't come into work, and they start searching as well. They needed help searching because these were big woods and they needed to be able to find them, and everybody was getting really, really nervous. It became very scary very fast. They then tried to call the phone companies to see if they could ping the phones, but the companies are kind of finicky about that and weren't being very helpful with that situation, and they weren't able to ping them. The girls did not have the Find My Phone on their device, so they weren't able to do that, and the phone companies would not ping their phones. So literally the last thing that we have as evidence where these girls, the last place they were, was that video of that man saying, guys, down the hill. They then formally requested that the police come and called it a missing person case because hours had gone by. So they called the police, and by this time, the news media's got a hold of it, and everybody was coming out to search for Libby and Abby. And I mean, everybody was freaking out. I mean, here's this small little town. How could these girls have just mysteriously disappeared, like vanished? Like these were amazing little girls, and there wasn't a lot of crime in this town. So everybody kind of rallied together. They're searching for the girls. They're hitting the trails, and Kelsey, the sister, really felt like, one of them had probably gotten injured and the other one was staying with them. I mean, she never really thought that something like bad had happened to them or that they had been abducted or murdered. She just thought that maybe something happened to their phone, they got injured. She still, didn't think the worst. And I think a lot of us would do the same thing because you're trying to protect yourself from thinking the worst, that something horrible could happen to these sweet, innocent girls. By this time, the local media was all over the case. Let's look at a clip here of one of the local medias talking about the girls being missing.
Top story tonight, 2 Carroll County girls have gone missing near the Monon High Bridge Trail in Delphi. News 18's Alexis Moberger joins us live and reports how several law enforcement agencies are looking for them. Alexis.
Brittany, the 2 13-year-old girls went missing hours ago and were told they haven't been answering their phones ever since. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office say the girls were last seen around 1 o'clock this afternoon near the Monon High Bridge Trail. Liberty, or Libby German, and Abigail Williams were dropped off by a family member. When she came back to pick them up around the arranged time, they never showed up. The Sheriff's Office was then notified around 5:30 tonight. And right now, several deputies are out looking for the 2 girls and are even using drones to help locate them. We're also told that DNR is out by the water searching and trying to locate the girls as well. Police are asking for the public's help. If anyone knows anything about where they could be or where they were last seen, they are encouraged to contact the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. We will be following this story and will bring you updates as they become available. Reporting live in Carroll County, Alexis Moberger, News 18.
So By 10 o'clock that night, they felt like it was getting too cold and the elements were too dangerous for the search and rescue to keep going, which I find a little bit strange. I mean, I think you would do whatever it takes to continue to look. You know, as time goes by, there's always a chance that you're not going to recover someone in a good situation. And I'm sure that the family was just devastated. I mean, here they are. What are they going to sleep? Of course, they didn't sleep, knowing that their girls were out in the woods and were not found. So many of the friends and family continued to search, even when the police force and search and rescue had called it off. They were looking for these girls. The Monon High Bridge Trail is actually what the bridge's name is. And you can actually look it up. Let's show a picture of this particular bridge. But that was where the girls were last seen, along this bridge. And so, you know, everybody was confused. Nobody understood what was happening, but they continued to search. Let's play a clip here of one of the local news stations talking about the search in this case.
On that breaking news from Carroll County.
Police continue to search for two teenage girls who went missing early yesterday. Now, Naomi Peskovich, she is in Carroll County gathering information and joins us with what we know so far and about where those girls were last seen. Good morning.
Ben and Julia, good morning to you. This is the entrance to the trail where those two 13-year-olds were last seen. Officers, law enforcement, they have stopped the search for the night. But in the meantime, other folks have come out. We've seen family. We just saw a group who didn't even know the girls come out here because they heard the story and wanted to come out. They're here with flashlights searching for them, doing anything they can. There's been so much pressure to try and find these two young girls since they went missing yesterday afternoon. In the meantime, we do want to give you another look at these photos. This is so important so that if you do see them, you can let police know. Both of them, again, 13 years old. They're both about 5 feet 4 inches tall. Liberty, or Libby German. She has shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes. She was wearing a tie-dyed shirt, some gray sweatpants, and also black shoes. Then there's Abby, or Abigail Williams. She's also 5'4", with medium-length blonde hair and hazel eyes. She was wearing a gray zip-up sweatshirt and some jeans. Meantime, this search started again yesterday afternoon. The two actually had the day off school yesterday, so they decided they wanted to have some fun, spend some time on the trail, and take some photographs. They were dropped off by a family member. They were supposed to be picked up around 3 o'clock, but when that family member arrived, the girls were not here. They weren't answering their text messages or phone calls. Libby's grandfather tells us the search started right away.
We started going through all the social media things, you know, picking up, looking at Facebook. Has she talked to anybody, or had the girls been talking with anybody, Snapchatting or whatever the kids do today, back and forth, and really didn't find anything. The last message I think we found going out was like at about 2:30, which was like a Snapchat of a picture of them out there on this bridge on the trail system. And that was the last communication we've had.
And that bridge is a hallmark of this area, the Monon High Bridge. It's on this sign behind us. It's a place that's frequented by folks who live around here, but still the conditions of the bridge may be dangerous. Libby's grandfather is going to tell us why. That's coming up in our next half hour of Sunrise. In the meantime, we've shared these pictures online. If you see them, please help the family and share those photos as well. Ben and Julia.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully this will lead to finding those girls. Thanks.
So the following day, when the police came back to help search, and the family had still been searching, it's actually really, really sad. Kelsey, the sister of Libby, had brought granola bars and blankets and drinks because she was certain that she would find her sister alive. It was at about 12:15 p.m. that one of the searchers stumbled across Libby's shoe. And at that point, you knew that something wasn't right. And that's when they made the horrible discovery of the bodies of Libby and Abby. A volunteer had found them, and they had been laying in between the trees in the woods, and they were found in a private property near the High Bridge, about 50 feet from the shore of Deer Creek, which wasn't far from where Abby and Libby had actually been dropped off at the beginning. But that is not somewhere where they would have wandered off on their own. So clearly somebody had brought them to that location or had taken their life and then taken them to that location. It is said that Kelsey, when she realized that they had found the bodies, she thought to herself, okay, I've heard that they found bodies. And she thought to herself, if they had found them, somebody would have said, we found the girls, but they said we found the bodies. And I think it was then that she realized that they were no longer alive. And she wanted to run to them, but one of her friends or somebody that was with her held her back and said, let's just stay here. We don't know what kind of condition they're in. We don't know if the perpetrator is still out there. Let's stay here. And when I think about it, knowing that I've gone through my own tragedy, I just know that your brain gets that impression of when you see something so traumatic, it sticks with you for the rest of your life. And I almost feel like it was a blessing that the person held her back, because the state that the girls were in was not good. One of the girls was completely nude, and the other girl was fully clothed with the other girl's clothes on. It's a very bizarre thing, and we will get into that more as we go along with this story. But I think it was a blessing in disguise that Kelsey didn't see her sister that way. I think it was the best that she saw her running off and being free into the woods when she had dropped her. I know that with my own personal tragedy and losses that I have suffered, I know that things that you see can be very traumatizing. So probably good that she didn't see that. Then there was a press conference. Let's show the press conference here about what they said about when they found the bodies.
I'm Riley. I'm with the Indiana State Police. I'm the Public Information Officer from the Lafayette Post.
Steve Mullen, Delphi Police Department, Chief of Police.
Topaz, I'm the Carroll County Sheriff.
Basically, we're going to make this, it's going to be short and sweet. We don't have that much at this point in time. Basically, what we've got, we have found 2 bodies. Is that the Sugar Creek?
Deer Creek.
Deer Creek, sorry. In Deer Creek, about a mile east of town. We are investigating this as a crime scene. We suspect foul play. We have not made positive identification of the 2 bodies, so we're not going to be releasing any information on them at this point in time. We've got the Indiana State Police is assisting the Carroll County Sheriff's Department and the Delphi City Police Department in the investigation here. We also have the FBI Crime Scene Investigation Group here out of Indianapolis. And one thing the family asked us to do is to thank all the communities around Delphi and the people here in Delphi for assisting in attempting to locate these the 2 young children that were missing earlier. They just wanted to say thank you to those people, and thank you. They were just wanted to express their gratitude toward the hard work that was done in helping search for these children.
Has the search been called off for these 2 teenagers?
Not officially, because we have not positively identified the bodies at this point in time.
Do you have people still searching the woods and creeks and fields?
We still have, there's still people out looking, but it has been scaled back. Let me just put it that way.
Are the bodies of the 2 individuals recovered, are those of young female children?
I'm not at liberty to give that information out as of this time.
Who found them?
I'm not going to say at this point in time.
Why do you believe that there was foul play?
Just the way the bodies were found. That's about all I can say at this point in time.
Were they in the water?
They were on the edge of the water, from what I understand. That's about the best I can tell you.
Any outside injuries?
I'm not going to make a comment on that at this time.
What time were they found?
That I'm not sure. 12:15?
12:15.
About 12:15 this afternoon.
Are there any either suspects or persons of interest being questioned at this time?
We have not gotten that far into the investigation, so I cannot comment one way or the other.
Sheriff, you are from this community. Talk about the toll this search and this apparent recovery has taken on your county.
It's been a long several hours. It's played tremendously on the emotions of the community, but the plus is, the positive is the outreach of love and support for the families involved. And I think that's been fantastic. It speaks highly of our community.
You've talked to the families. There's been no identification, but we could hear that this was a sad meeting you had.
There is some sadness, yes.
How long do you think it's going to take, of what you know so far, how long do you think it's going to take to positively identify these two?
I can't speak for the coroner. He's the one that will take care of that part. That's not something I can give you that information at this point in time.
How far down was it from the bridge? Downstream?
Probably more than a mile, or less than a mile, rather.
I'm going to say somewhere between half and 3/4 of a mile. I'm guessing. The road curves back in there, so it's really hard to tell as the crow flies how far it is, but I'm going to guess about a half to 3/4 of a mile back there.
It wasn't that far from where the search started. You mentioned hours of searching, hundreds of people. So were they not in plain sight in that area, that it would have taken a long time for you guys to find them?
We really don't want to comment on that at this point in time.
Are there any
We don't really want to put out too much information at this point in time. Something I will do, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm going to probably put tweets out approximately every hour on updates. It may be as much as that I'm just going to say we have nothing new at this time, but I will try to do that for at least the next 4 to 6 hours.
How do you suspect, do you presume that these are the two people you were looking for?
I really can't comment on that at this point in time.
Were there any visible injuries or other signs of trauma to the bodies that were discovered?
We're not going to make any comment on that either. I know we're not giving you much. I understand that, but I mean we're at the baby stages of this case. At this point in time, I cannot release really much more information. As soon as I can, I will be more than happy to put stuff out.
Who's the lead investigator?
Carroll County is actually the lead.
Sheriff's Office.
Is it fair to say the search has been drastically scaled back?
Correct. I will say that, yes.
Sheriff, are you classifying this as a homicide investigation at this stage?
It's a death investigation with unknown sources.
Chief, you have not said anything yet. This is your town. Talk about the impact this has had on your town.
It's had a terrible impact on our community. The people who participated in the search, the people who have participated in all the efforts to try to find the victims in this case are very much appreciated. But I know that it's had a terrible effect on our people, and we are grieved that this sort of thing would happen here in our community. I am pleased to see the community come out and help us the way that they have. I'm very pleased to be part of a community that has done everything they have done to help us out in this case.
Going forward, you're going to do everything, obviously, you can to find out who was involved in this. I know earlier when we talked, pretty much all the law enforcement's been holding back tears because these young girls and families, and the whole search has really taken a toll on you. So are you going to do everything, exhaust every option, just like you did in the search, to find out who was involved in this?
Yes.
Anything to say to the community?
Huge thank you.
Yes, thank you for all their help.
Should people in the community be afraid right now, based upon what you've seen and you know?
I think people are smart enough in our community to draw their own conclusions about what they should feel and shouldn't feel. Our people are very smart. We have a very good community, and they are very strong. And they are able to draw their own conclusions about this whole situation, I think, quite successfully. But thank you for the question.
Because, and the reason I ask is I hear the words foul play suspected. And people might be wondering if there's somebody running around this community preying on people that they need to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Should they be?
I think people are able to draw their own conclusions about this situation, and they are smart enough to figure out that what the situation warrants them to think. So that's all we have to say about that.
And you said you scaled back the search completely, so the hundreds of people, even they were coming up a little bit ago, can I offer my help? Can I get back out there? At this point, you guys not want more people heading out in that area? What's the advice for people who do want to be involved in the search?
They can continue to help in the way we need the assistance at. I am not at the scene, and I'm not aware of what's going on out there at this point in time, so I can't really say what we're going to use them for. We may be just telling them we thank you for your help, and we may just be sending them back. So, you know, again, it's we believe what, you know, you believe what you can, and then we got to go with the truth that we have. So that's what we're working at.
One final thing, you started off with a statement about finding the bodies. You said Sugar Creek. Can you say that over again with the right creek in it?
Oh, Deer Creek. The bodies were found in the Deer Creek area, just east of town, about a mile from the 3/4 to a mile east of the, what is that? The
Freedom Bridge.
Freedom Bridge. I know I didn't help you much there, but
South from Freedom Bridge or the Monon
High Bridge.
High Bridge?
I'm not sure which bridges.
They're two separate bridges.
I know. So which
Freedom Bridge is on the Heartland, and
Okay.
High Bridge is
It's
the bridge that's right
back.
up that used to be the
Yeah.
railroad
So
bridge.
how far from High Bridge? I think that was the last known location.
Within probably 3/4 of a mile or so.
Okay, and how close were they to the area where they were supposed to be picked up by their relatives?
Within that 3/4 of a mile, so.
Okay.
Is that with the flow of the creek or against the flow?
It would be upstream.
Upstream against the flow of the creek.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That's really all we got right now.
So clearly now they know that this is not an accident. This is going to be a crime investigation, and definitely foul play was suspected. And you know, the only clues that we really have are from Snapchat. There was an original sketch made of a person that they do believe was a person of interest. And we will get into that more as we talk more about this story, because we're going to get into a lot more details about this. But you can only imagine how the family's feeling. You can only imagine how the grandparents and the parents, I mean, here they are, these two little girls have so much life ahead of them. And now not only have they been found, but they've been found not alive in a very, very bad situation. And so obviously their focus is now finding this monster who did it. The entire community is terrified. I mean, this is not a place where you would typically have something of this nature happen. And so the policemen were very adamant about saying, we will find you. No doubt about it. Like, we will find you. And so you better watch out, because we're going to find you. And they were very confident. Unfortunately, though, it would be years before they got more clues and more tips and more leads. And we will talk about that as we go along with this story. It just makes me think, you know, one minute you're having pizza with your kids, you drop them off to play, and the next minute they're gone. It's a very, very scary world. And I think there's a lot of things we did back in the old days that we don't do now just because of that problem. Even in a very small town, a place that you think is so safe, you just don't know. You don't know who is lurking. So let's talk a little bit more about what happens next. So I apologize. I actually made a mistake. The sketch of the suspect was not released until 2 years later. And this was done through, I think, the video of the Snapchat that they got. If you want to show the video here again of the suspect. And, you know, when law enforcement, they really sprung into action and started looking for these girls. When they did, the person most likely got away by foot. So the person most likely didn't drive away. They actually got away by foot. So it's insane to me that they had so many people involved and nobody saw anybody. Well, that's what we think, because there's been thousands of leads and tips that have come in. But 2019 is when they actually came out with this sketch, and the family took this picture and would just hand it out to everybody. It was put all over the news. It was given out everywhere to look for this monster who did this horrific thing to these children. There was a Dr. Phil episode where he actually talked to the grandparents, the parents. Let's show the clip here of the Dr. Phil show.
Our granddaughter Libby was flat out killed.
My daughter Abby and her friend Libby were found murdered.
For what? No clue. 2 innocent girls walking on the trails, laughing, giggling, taking pictures.
The girls stuck together right up to the end.
Every child is the light of your life, and you can never imagine losing any one of them.
It's your theory that this is likely the killer.
Absolutely.
Have they been able to high-res this picture and get a better image of the face and all than what we have here?
This is as good as it gets. When I say that they've said, the FBI has said, we've had a lot of people working, NASA, Disney, you name it, we've worked on it, we've tried. This is the best we can do because everybody assumes that we can. And
okay, and I guess based on this and on witnesses, they came up with a sketch.
that is correct.
And this is the sketch, and this does, maybe it's just suggestibility or whatever, but it does look like the picture.
Yes.
But this is based on witnesses saying what they saw of a man there at the time, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that was from an eyewitness person who saw a person that looked like this leaving that area around that time that day.
Okay, and then at 4 o'clock, you went to the trails, right?
My son, who was picking Libby up, called me and said she's not answering the phone. And that was at 3:30. So my daughter and I both kept calling and messaging and texting Libby, and there was no answer. So it was just about 4 o'clock, I called my husband at work and said, Libby's not answering her phone, they're out at the trails, there's something wrong.
What did you think had happened at that point?
We probably figured that maybe they fell or got hurt or something, maybe that they just couldn't, or lost her phone. You know, maybe they fell and the phone came out of her hand or something and couldn't answer. So we were just looking for them laying somewhere.
So you called the police at 5 o'clock?
It was a little after 5.
A little after 5, I called the police.
Okay.
We'd been searching as a family, couldn't find anything, and thought, okay, it's going to start getting dark. Let's get the police involved here. And they immediately came out in force, started walking the trails with us, looking for the girls.
And so by 6 o'clock, there's a search underway, right? You said a lot of people came out.
Yeah. Most of the town was out. People were out all over the streets of Delphi, flashlights, walking, just groups, and hundreds of people seemed to be coming out to help us look.
People split up and went through each finger of that trail system. We don't know which direction he came from or where he went.
Within an hour and 23 minutes of her last Snapchat post, you were there, looking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hour and 23 minutes. You're there looking around. You don't see anybody. You don't see the guy, and he just disappears.
Well, actually, there was somebody there at 3:14. Libby's dad was there to pick them up.
At 3:14?
At 3:14. He called them first at 3:11 and said, I'm almost there, start heading back to the trailhead. And he got there at 3:14 and called them again and said, hey, I'm here. And she still didn't answer. So he started walking the trails.
Okay, that's 41 minutes.
Yes, at that time he started walking the trails. He called me at 3:30. So he had already been there for 16 minutes.
That just breaks my heart for those parents and the family of those children. We are going to stop on part 1 of the Delphi murders today. We have a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about the leads that came in, the tips that came in, and the recent evidence that just came in, and theories that this may have been more than one person and it could have been tied to a cult. We're going to talk about all that and the new suspect that was arrested for this crime. You should be at about 26 minutes, so you should be almost close to your 3,000 step period. So I know sometimes it's these stories really are heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching. I mean, it's horrible. But my goal and hope is that maybe somebody watching this case will look into it and, I don't know, maybe find a tip or a lead so that the family can feel like it's been resolved. But thank God that Libby took that video. I mean, how smart is that to know during a time when you know that you might be about to lose your life, to take a video to help find the guy that did this so that he might not do it to somebody else. But I think you're going to find something very interesting. The person that they believe that it was changes in a very, very drastic way. And we're going to talk about that when we come back to our next episode and part 2 of the Delphi murders. Thank you for being with us today on Step to Stories, part 1 of the Delphi murders. Feel free to correct me if I said something that wasn't accurate. I try to get my facts straight. I don't read by a script. My goal is to keep you engrossed so that you can get the rest of your 10,000 steps in for the day, whether you're starting in the morning or finishing in the evening. So anyway, let's continue to pray for this family, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.